we're back with another episode, and today we're going to be talking about our alcohol-free company events, the future of employee engagement. This is really interesting because I've done a lot of research from every generation, and when I look into what people love and hate about getting together in person, team building, offsites, one of the things that I hear people hate the most is how big of a role alcohol can play in gathering and getting together. So we're going to break it all down today. Networking over cocktails or even winding down after a long day with a glass of wine has been the norm for a very, very long time. And there was a post that I saw recently that came out, and it was like the death of the happy hour. Things are starting to change, and we see that millennials and Gen Z employees are pushing for a little bit of a different kind of gathering, more of one that prioritizes health, wellness, and genuine connection. Now, maybe this doesn't mean that we need to completely get rid of alcohol at these events, but what is the focus? We do see when we do our research here at FeelSwell Experiences that alcohol-free offsites are actually rising in popularity, and they're almost this refreshing alternative that's offering deeper engagement for people. Maybe there's clearer communication and expectations. Like, let's be really honest and real about that. When it can come to, incorporating alcohol or not, or deciding, there's a lot of boundaries or barriers maybe in between all of this that we don't really speak about, or there's the unknown and people are unclear, and then HR's got problems, right? So maybe it's headed towards more inclusive experiences. And I really want to talk about when we study and look at this, the changing expectations. Because again, I've shared this many times before. You're probably going to get sick of me sharing the same stat, but it's true. In the next 5 years, 58% of the workforce will be Gen Z and millennials. And it's really shifting that 10,000 boomers are retiring per week, right? We're having a massive shift in the workforce. And according to a 2022 survey, the American Psychological Association said that 48% of millennials and 37% of Gen Z respondents reported that they regularly engage in health-focused habits, such as exercise and mindful eating. So it is really interesting to look at this when we think about how the workforce is changing, the kind of events that we're hosting and creating may need to shift as well. I want to share one more stat with you. Additionally, Forbes has reported that younger generations are significantly more likely to prioritize mental health, with 77% of millennials and Gen Z saying that wellness is a major, let me repeat that, is a major factor in choosing or staying with an employer. Now, when I talk to people in, let's just say, Gen X or boomers, they talk a lot about how they've always just had to push through, how they've always just had to continue on and do whatever they needed to make sure that they were just working really hard. And there's books that I read, and I heard this one example specifically that I'll bring to life here. There was a guy that had worked at a company for a really long time, and he had decided, okay, I'm going to officially retire. And one of the things he always wanted to do was take his sailboat out. And he retired, and a week later, he died. And it was crazy because it's this idea that we get so caught up in really focusing on how we can just work, 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 and never, never stop. And now it's like, okay, well, it's time to enjoy your life, but your health's not good because you've been so stressed, overwhelmed, and you can't even actually do the things that you enjoy. So is it worth it? Right? And I think Gen Z and millennials are starting to question that even more and saying, what is it that I need to do to work for an employer that actually helps me prioritize and take care of my mental well-being? And I think that's why we're seeing this really big shift, that's showing that there's a growing, aversion to alcohol-centric events. And in 2023, there was a report by Morning Consult that found 46% of Gen Z drink less alcohol than older generations. So 46% of Gen Z is drinking alcohol less frequently than older generations. And when it comes to the why, like why is this sh shift happening? We're seeing that they're talking about, health concerns, they notice mental clarity, and then this desire for an authentic experience. And I'll be completely honest, I can 1000% relate to that. In certain environments, as somebody that is Gen Z, in certain environments, when I go into them, I'm looking for an authentic experience. I'm looking to genuinely connect with people. I do notice how, I don't feel as great. I love to exercise. I love to work out. I box, I run. I like walking outside. I do yoga. And when I do have alcohol, and not to say that I don't ever have it, but when I do, I notice how my body shifts and feels. And I think that's what's causing so many people in this world right now, and the shift that we're seeing in the event space is to rethink how we actually organize these get-togethers. Because I can tell you right now, as someone who left, the corporate space, I don't want to go to an event that is completely, centered around alcohol and open bars and drinking and drinking and drinking. I'm looking for a place to build, meaningful connections and that encourage me to be creative and to actually feel like I'm having a conversation with someone today and they're going to remember it tomorrow and we can continue building on that relationship. You know what I mean? So I think things are shifting in a positive way, but doesn't mean that it's getting, completely taken away. It means that things are just shifting and the focus is becoming a little bit different. So I want to talk about some of the benefits of alcohol-free events and what we've seen in the work that we do, what works, what doesn't work. And here's the number one thing, okay? When you've got a 3-day retreat and people are getting up early and you've got, maybe you're doing a little meditation in the morning or you're going on a nature walk or whatever it is that we're hosting for folks, they've got an improved focused and mental clarity for the day when they feel like the night before they were well rested, they had a nourishing meal. I mean, just think about it for yourself. How much better do you feel when you've taken care of yourself, you've had a nourishing meal, you've slept a full 8, 9 hours, and you're ready to get up in the morning and start your day? Right? So sometimes when you're drinking late into the hours of the night and then, you don't sleep as well because it messes with your sleep and then you're up in the morning and you're like, oh, you almost need a retreat after your retreat. You know what I mean? So let's think about how really these events can help us with our focus, with our productivity, just feeling excited to be somewhere. I kind of mentioned this before in my other example where I was sharing a little bit about what's important to me when I'm going to these events, and that's genuine connections. Alcohol, it can help people in ways where they can feel like they can be actually social because of it, but sometimes it can feel really superficial because if you're drinking too much, right? You don't remember those conversations that you have, and then you don't really create those authentic connections that allow us to be vulnerable the next day and the next day and continue to have that trust and collaboration because it just ends there. You go into these conversations and then you feel like you start all over again the next day with that person that you thought you had this deep conversation with. And so these experiences, right, the ultimate goal, at least when we're creating offsites, is to create something in a container that you take those relationships that you built inside of those 3 days, whatever kind of experience we're creating, however many days, and you feel like they go beyond the offsite. And we want them to continue. Number three, and I was just talking about this online the other day, and I got a lot of comments about this, and this is the aspect of inclusivity. Not everyone drinks, right? And, of course, we could have different kinds of drinks and mocktails and all sorts of things, but maybe somebody's religion. I saw this comment the other day. Someone said, I'm Muslim. It makes me feel really uncomfortable when I'm in these environments, and, it's all about drinking. Doesn't mean there can't be alcohol there, but when it's all about it can actually exclude or alienate some team members who just choose not to partake, right? Due to health reasons or cultural beliefs or religion or personal preferences. So it can create a more inclusive environment where people feel valued and they feel comfortable. I'm also going to add in another aspect here as a woman, right? Going on these different events, offsites, corporate meetings, I felt like, oh, I need to make sure I'm considering my safety, right? I'm thinking about, okay, do I have to take an Uber home or do I have to do this or whatever it may be? And I may not feel so safe if I'm in these environments where, that this is almost like a peer pressure or forced, or it's the main focus. And, I'm not going to feel super comfortable with participating. So just some other layers to think about from different perspectives here. And then another one is the mental and physical well-being. I talked a little bit about this. We love to create events where people are rock climbing, they're doing yoga, they're doing meditation, they're hiking, and we believe that that really helps balance the mind and body connection. It helps promote clarity, it helps reduce stress. So when you are feeling tired and hungover the next day, these retreats, right, they don't really energize you as much as we'd hope. And these companies that are doing these offsites, they're spending a lot of money using a lot of resources to make sure that when they get together, it's super intentional. So let's just think about that too. The ROI of these offsites may not be as high as you'd hope when we got everyone feeling hungover, right? We want people to feel good. We want them to feel excited. We want them to have a really positive connection to your company. And then, what could a alcohol-free offsite look like? What could that look like, and how could you get people excited about it on your team? It could look like having more mindfulness and meditation sessions. Maybe it's more outdoor adventures like a nature hike or paddle boarding or zip lining or anything that you could think of outside. We loved adding in the rock climbing aspect as well. Or maybe it's more creative workshops. Maybe people are cooking together in team building, or there's design thinking sessions that encourage people to just think outside the box. How about maybe even the meals, right? The meals maybe look a little different. Maybe they're more nutritious. Maybe they are locally sourced and it's farm to table, and we're giving a real wellness focused atmosphere that's exciting and draws people in, and they feel fueled and they feel energized throughout the day. Maybe they may want to make better decisions. So, how about team building? How could that look if you're, moving away from the alcohol typical centered focused offsite? Well, maybe there's more trust building activities. Maybe there's more problem solving challenges, and people feel like they are more comfortable. And everything that we do when we're structuring these offsites and we're building them and putting them together is we're thinking about meeting your team where they are. If they don't know each other at all, the offsite's going to be look completely different than if they do know each other. And I think that's really important to consider, because if they've never met in person, these are strangers. We've got to build that relationship, and it's not going to just happen by doing all of these different activities and people feeling uncomfortable. So, it's important to shift and think about where we're headed, but also to consider meeting your team where they are. And maybe you even ask your team, "Hey, how do you all feel about this? What are your thoughts? What is most comfortable for you?" And you get a little bit of feedback so you can truly understand what may be the most helpful. So, again, at FeelSwell Experiences, we're always thinking ahead. We're always helping you stay ahead of the curve. And I can tell you right now, based off our research, speaking with so many different folks around the US, we see that alcohol-free offsites, there's really an opportunity to advance and align your corporate events, your offsites with the values of today's workforce. So something to think about. We're here to chat more about it with you. If you have questions, if you want to keep focusing on wellness, clarity, and connection for your team, make sure that you check out the description below, or you can send an email at Keely, Keely, at FeelSwellExperiences.com, or you can connect with me on LinkedIn. I would love to answer any questions, speak about this a little bit more with you, and dive into how we really see the world of offsites changing and the way that your team gets together. Thank you so much for listening to today's episode, and we'll see you on the next one.